Welcome to another episode of InPodSicated with Big Z. This week we have an amazing interview with this person has the story of a lifetime, and you've got to listen to it all the way through. I got the pleasure of interviewing Nikki Gomez, and it's just not a name. She's a force in the fashion industry, a dedicated woman that, oh my God, I kept pausing and stopping the story because I'm like, there's no way this is all true, but every single word is completely true. Her journey began in 2004, stepping in front of a camera as a plus-size model with a mission to represent the diversity and beauty that she saw within the women of her own family and Afro-Latino heritage. And she didn't stop there. She got behind the lens as a photographer. We talked about her early life in middle school, high school, who she was, her struggles, the serendipity or angels that helped her out through her career and just her life, from finding her passions in high school to modeling to being on a reality show with TLC to being a photographer for the biggest modeling agencies to booking commercials, to being on a movie with myself almost 20 years ago, wherever it was. Her story is just incredible, and I had the pleasure of interviewing Nikki, and I had so much fun. I had so much fun having this conversation with her, and I hope you guys really enjoy it. Again, InPodSicated is brought to you by 606 Media, and here we go. All right, we're good. All right, Nikki, welcome to InPodSicated. Thank you for coming on. Oh, the energy you bring is amazing. Thank you. Where are you? Where are you at?
Thank you. I am currently living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been here for
What?
about 3 years now.
So when people say,
Everybody
wait,
always goes,
people
"Why
say, I'm
Tulsa?"
moving. I'm gonna go to warmer weather. I'm gonna go to LA. I'm gonna go to Florida. You know what? I want to be busy. I want to be where the actions happen. I'm going to New York. You're like, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, they got one sports team.
I went from New York
Yeah.
City my whole life to Tulsa. And it happened during the pandemic. Actually, they have this program here for remote workers, and they actually give you a grant to
Uh-huh.
live here for a
Okay.
year if you're chosen. And so I got the grant and I moved here sight unseen. Like I didn't even visit, never been here before, and fell in love. Like in the first week, I loved the city. And then about halfway in the year, I was like, well, I need at least 2 years to
Mhm.
know if I really like it. And now I'm in
Okay.
my third year.
So
So
if you're gonna
I
sell
think,
somebody Oklahoma specifically, what aspects are you selling about Tulsa, Oklahoma?
okay, I can't sell Oklahoma because I have not I have not seen all of Oklahoma, but
All
I
right.
can sell Tulsa. So Tulsa is like it's like a little city. So like if you're from New York and you've been to like White Plains or Yonkers or any of the
Okay.
like Westchester cities, it's kind of like that in that there are things to do, there are good restaurants, there's nightlife. The best part about it is access. So like where like the hottest place in New York, maybe you'll
Mhm.
get in, maybe you won't get in. Here you're getting in. And then on top of that, like you don't have to commute. Like everything, one part of the city all the way to the other
Oh
side
my
is
God.
20 minutes no matter what. So like you can get anywhere, you can go anywhere, you can hang out. People are so kind,
Yeah.
like not just like nice, they're like kind. They like care. They talk to you. They tell you about their life and their dogs and their cats and their everything, like from the Uber driver to the waiter to the whoever. Like they just share, and it's nice, it's warm. It's a
Okay. So
warm-hearted
so you're talking
place.
about Applebee's. Okay. Got it. Understood.
No. I didn't even go to Applebee's in New York. What you think?
Yeah, I gotta get those margaritas. There's dollar margaritas at Applebee's. You're able to get in. There's no line. Come on through.
Thank you, no thank you.
So you've got friendly people. You have access to restaurants,
Mhm.
nightlife, minimal traffic. Um, I'm guessing better weather. Are you getting better weather than New York, or is it kind of very similar? You're getting seasons
It's,
out there.
it's not okay, so there's seasons, but then there's season within the season.
Yeah,
So,
you gotta
like,
tell me. Yeah, I live in
you
Chicago.
might have so
We get it 4 seasons in one day.
yeah, so it's probably it's similar to that in that we're in the Midwest, you get
Mhm.
everything from all over, and so here, one day could be 30, and then the next, like, 2
Okay.
days later, it's 80, so,
Okay.
like, you just gotta never put away your seasonal clothing, like, it's
Okay.
just hanging up
Okay.
and ready no matter what.
Okay. It's just very similar. Literally,
Yeah.
we hit 75 last week, and then the next day was, oh, by the end of the night, we had a thunderstorm warning that went became a snowstorm, and we had high winds, and we dropped 45 degrees. So, that all seasons in one day.
Yeah,
That's
sounds like
Chicago, and I'm
Oklahoma.
pretty sure Oklahoma is very similar. But um,
Mhm.
not everybody's gonna know this because we're barely starting this podcast, but we met on set.
Yes, like 12 years
Wow.
ago.
First of all, wow. Second of all, wow. 12
Mhm.
years ago, I have not even you know what? I actually just framed um the poster. I just framed it last month, and it's up. It's all signed by everybody. When we
Nice.
did a screening at was it the Congress Theater? No, not the Congress. Was it the Congress?
I don't remember the name of it.
It
I
was
don't
on
remember the name
Milwaukee
of
Avenue.
it.
I believe it's the Congress. Yeah, so we were supposed to do it in the theater, but I guess
Right.
the city had some kind of issue and wouldn't let us in, or the building had a violation, so we had to do everything in the lobby, which is whatever. It worked. It worked, and we did. Yeah, we
It
it was a little
worked,
bit more
it worked.
intimate, and we got be able to do the sign afterwards, us meet and greet, which kind of made us feel like celebrities for a day. But what was your genesis getting into a movie? How did you get? Because I guess we both know Carlos from aspect, right? So how did you get into Motel Six
Yeah,
Six
so
Six? I'm gonna plug it. Fuck it. Why not?
yeah, Motel 666, hey,
Is
it's
it?
on Vimeo,
Oh
I
my
think,
god.
so yeah, yeah. So Carlos, reached out to me out of the blue. I had never heard of him or seen him before, and he saw me on television. So I had a reality show
Mhm.
on TLC in 2011. And I guess he saw me on TLC and was like, hey, she'd probably be great in my film. And so reached out to me, and literally his question was, if you could be in any movie, what kind of
Okay.
movie would it be? And so my answer was, I love horror movies. And then his response was, when I have a script, I'll get back to you. And I said, okay. And then next thing you know, Motel 666 was born, and there I was.
So, yeah, I mean, I know Carlos from the neighborhood. We grew up in the same neighborhood. We have tons of family friends that are just full well connected. Uh, and he's like, "Hey, bro, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing." He's like, "Can you show up tomorrow? I got a part for you." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "All right, cool. Do I have any lines?" He's like, "No, I'm gonna send you a treatment." Okay, cool. And I read, the scene I was gonna be in. And he's like, so do I have any lines? I mean, what's going on here? I guess, I was in a satanic cult kind of scene where I get killed. Um, and so I spent more time in the makeup chair getting a fake incision from the neck all the way down to my belly button. Took about 3 hours. And I was literally shooting. I think we
Wow.
shot my scene, just that one scene, about 45 minutes. Trying to get the right angles. And, this is me learning everything from scratch. 'Cause I've never been in a film. And, I really got no direction, which is fine. He's like, just be natural. I'm like, I've never been killed, bro. I've never had a knife on me.
Yeah, how do I naturally
I mean,
get
I grew
killed?
up in the hood. It was more bullets than knives. So come on. So,
Right,
towards the end of the scene, I started losing my voice from the screaming, and so forth. And then a lot of my stuff got cut out as far as like the way I got killed. But I do remember it was super cold when I shot, and I don't think we were shooting on the same days. I think you were more in the daytime, and I was more in
mm-mm.
the nighttime.
Yep, I was in the daytime, and it was literally the direction was, just greet them, be friendly. You're going to be the bright spot in the
Oh, that's
movie. And I
easy.
was like, okay.
Come on.
So like you, yeah, I was like, no problem. Yeah, like you, no lines, just improv. And so I think we did maybe 2 or 3 takes of me greeting
Yeah.
Wes and the guys, and that was pretty much
Oh,
it.
Wes
We
was
were
a
done.
sweetheart.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was a sweetheart.
Hmm.
So I'm in the bed. Doesn't tell me because the script is. I mean, the treatment doesn't have everything. So now I'm tied up against the bedpost. There's a fake knife. There's two. I guess two other actresses, two female actresses that I just met like 10 minutes before we started shooting. They're yeah, well,
And
they
they're killing
entice
you.
me into the hotel room, and they're rubbing on me this and that, and then they just throw me on the bed, and then I guess they knock me out or whatever. I can't even remember, and then I have the killer trying to kill me. Um, and I'm in my underwear. It's like I'm clothed one scene, and then they cut, and then I'm in my underwear, and I was like, "Bro, this was not in the script." He's like, "Come on, come on."
I didn't
I'm like,
approve
"I'm
of
not even
this.
getting paid," and and then so he's like, we finished everything, and then he's like, they take a look at it and like, all right, okay, it looks good. And he's like, hey, I got an idea. I'm like, what? He's like, let's go to the attic. What do you mean let's go to the attic? I already died. He's like, yeah, now you're a ghost. Okay. Where is this going?
See, I remember
Yeah,
seeing you as the ghost. Like, I remember the ghost scene and, like, the close up of that, but I don't remember you getting killed
they cut
part.
that to
So,
like this much, and I had more airtime or screen time as a ghost. And let me tell you, it was like
yeah.
15 degrees. I'm in my undies up in the roof with it is just freezing cold. And I'm like, can I get a jacket up here when we're not shooting? Come on, guys.
Oh,
Like it was I have to complain to the union if I was in one.
right? It's like what we do for our
Right,
friends in the
right.
movies.
So I mean, I'm glad it was a great experience. I did make another cameo in another movie, and I don't know if it was ever finished. It was filmed at some nightclub up north here in Chicago, and I was just a bartender. So I was just there for like maybe
Mm,
an hour, and it was 2 takes. And I mean, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, oh, this is
nice.
easy. This acting thing, yeah,
Yeah, you're like,
I'm an
"I'm an
actor.
actor."
Yeah, so that I mean, it's funny. I've done a music video where I played a fictitious boyfriend. So like, I got a couple of things that here and there from that, but I was like, meh. But I also have a bad memory, so I don't know if I could remember lines, and that'd probably be my problem.
Well, the good thing with Carlos is we
I,
didn't have to remember
I had to,
lines. We just had
yeah,
to
energy and
bring
screaming.
energy.
Yes, yes, definitely that.
Yeah. You had to scream, that's right.
So
I was hoping he was gonna make
I
me a
did,
killer, really, honestly.
I
I was a
thought
little
you were the
disappointed, but
killer.
that's
I
okay.
thought you were the killer. That
I
would
would
have been
have
a
loved
great
it.
swerve. That would have been a
I
great
would have loved
swerve.
it.
Because everybody thought it was the
Mhm.
innkeeper, but no, it was a receptionist. That would have been cool.
Yep, the friendly
Maybe we'll make a part
receptionist.
two where you take over as a killer.
Right? Or just, like or he can, like, make an alternate ending and, like, reveal that I
There
was
we
the
go.
killer the whole
Yeah,
time,
director's
recut
cut.
it.
Oh, we got to get him on.
Yeah.
We got to get him on the phone.
Yeah, exactly,
So
for real.
it's funny that you did say that he, I guess, discovered or casted you from seeing the TLC Big Sexy. Is that was that the name of it, Big Sexy? Um, so that a
Yep. Mhm.
groundbreaking moment to be representation as a Latina, a full figure Latina or plus size, however you want to label it. I'm not big on labels.
Mhm.
How did you get that TLC spot, and what did it mean to you?
Yeah, so at that point, I had been modeling for a while, so I think almost maybe like
Okay.
7 or 8 years at that point, and I knew another model, and then she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I interviewed with a casting director, and they're looking for more plus size
Hmm.
women who work in fashion to be in this TV show." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, here's her information, blah, blah, blah." So I reached out and I'm like, "Hey, you just, interviewed a friend of mine, blah, blah, blah for the show." And they were like, "Oh, come on in. Let's talk to you." And I was like, "Okay." So I go down to their offices down in Manhattan, and I met with this woman, and they decided to do like a little quick interview with me on camera and just asked me like about my life, about what's going on, blah, blah, blah. At that time, I was
Okay.
separated. So I had been married,
Okay.
I was separated, I was probably single for the first time in my life. And so I gave zero F's about like a lot of things. I was just like, I'm living life, party girl Nikki. Like I was in my party girl mode. So I was like very honest and very revealing about my dating style and what was happening in my life at the time. And I think they really liked that because they're like, oh, this girl has no filter.
She's a
She's got no
natural.
shame.
TLC
she just,
approved.
they're like, she just like she just tell us about her life. And I was like, sure. And so that got their attention. And so then they brought me in for another meeting. They filmed some B-roll with me. And then before I knew it, I was chosen. But
Okay.
it's a long process. I don't think most people realize reality show casting is like
What?
it could be up to a year before you even start filming
It's
anything
not like
for this
American
show.
Idol where I
Yeah.
just show up and they give me a golden
It's
ticket.
no. And even that is a process. You don't even know about the
No.
pre-interviews before
Yeah,
the
they filmed so
auditions and
much
stuff.
stuff
So there's a
beforehand, right?
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, beforehand, like you're like I auditioned for The Voice, but you do like a virtual audition first. So you have to like, yeah, it's a whole
We've got
I'm
time,
like
girl.
I tried
We've
lots
got
of
to know
different things.
all these stories. We've got time.
Oh man. Yeah, I did. We can get into
Yep.
that after the Big Sexy thing. But yeah, Big Sexy was the whole premise of that show was a positive reality show, kind of like a reality Sex in the City, but with plus size
Okay.
women in the fashion industry. And just how we navigate the industry, how we're treated, and stuff like that. And so for me, it was groundbreaking because every time you've seen a plus size body before, it was making fun of her, or
Mhm.
she's depressed, or she eats all the time, she has low self
Mhm.
esteem, or all of these things. And I didn't feel that way. And I don't feel that way about myself. I'm just like, look,
Right.
I am
Right.
who I am. People either like me or they don't. Like, there's not really, it's not like I'm going to beat myself up. And I think that was something I was really grateful for to do. And to be that example, or at least one of the examples of someone who's not just sitting crying
Mhm.
and dieting all the time or eating all the time. Like,
Yeah.
that's not my lifestyle. So
Well, did you have any
it was fun.
challenges with being on the show before and after? During and after. I'm sorry. Mhm.
Challenges.
I
What
don't
kind of
know. I mean,
challenge?
because you're
What kind of
I mean,
challenges do you think?
obviously you did at this point. You've done a little bit of modeling. Now you're on a reality TV show. What did you face any challenges? Like, did you automatically get used to having the cameras in your face? Like maybe not getting along with a certain individual, or I don't know. I've never been on a reality show, so that's something that's on my checklist. Apparently,
You're like, spill the tea.
it's okay. It's been a while. It's just been a while.
Spill it.
Statute of limitations have passed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. Yes. So I didn't care about the cameras. Like I'm pretty comfortable in front of the
Mhm.
camera, so that was not a big deal. Um, I did have some drama with one of the cast members. And to me it was just strange because I didn't do
Mhm.
anything to deserve the drama, but like she literally set
Uh,
me up. So just a little tea. She talked to the producers and kind of exaggerated a
okay.
scenario that wasn't real. It wasn't a real scenario. And then my first day of filming, they're like, "Oh, you're gonna go to this restaurant and you're gonna film with her, blah blah
Sure.
blah."
Why
And
not?
I'm like, "Okay." And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I'm like, "Well, what are we talking about?" "Don't worry about it. You'll see when you get there." La la la. I sit down and then she just like hits me with a ton of bricks about like nonsense that wasn't real. And because it didn't even happen on camera,
Okay.
like this thing she was talking about, like we had to
Mhm.
talk around it. So with reality shows, if it's not on camera, the thing that you're talking about, like you kind of have to like allude to it, but you can't say what it is. It's weird. So she did that to me, and I'm blindsided. Now, mind you, I may be a New Yorker,
Mhm.
I may be a Latina, I
Mhm.
may be born in the Bronx, but I'm not like a fighter. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be like, "What the hell?" Da, 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 da." I think that's what they kind of were hoping
Yeah,
what
because
was going to
that's
happen. And instead, I was like, so instead I was like, and in my head I'm also conscious of that. I'm like, I'm not
right.
going to be that person. Like I'm not going to be the token,
Mhm.
this that stereotype that you guys want me to be, because that's not who I am. So you can try to throw it at me, but guess what? You're going to get a lot of composure and kindness because that's not who I am. So I literally said to her, I was like, well, I'm sorry that that happened and you took it that way. That was not my intention. I'm more than happy to work it out with you, blah, blah, blah. And she had no choice but to disarm
Ooh.
herself. And so that was the end of our scene. Now, what did happen is I went back home and started stewing in my head. I was like, what the hell did she just put me into?
Yeah.
Because I
Hmm.
processed it, right? I was like, that's not cool. And so then I called the producers and I was like, no, 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 this is what really happened. And then they're like, okay, now you're going to confront her. And so it was this
Wow.
whole thing that to me, like, honestly, in the long
Hmm.
run, it doesn't really mean anything, right? It was just feelings in the moment. But she kept taking it and running with it and making up narratives in her head that weren't true. And then she wouldn't talk to the other girls. So then she thought I was like turning them against her. But honestly, like she wasn't talking to them. I didn't talk to them about her. They were just like, why is she like this? How come she's only friendly when the camera comes on? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
So she was fake.
So that was the only beef. And yeah. And then in the long run, it worked out fine. I ended up being her agent. And shit was cool and everything was fine.
Wait. So the show ends, and how do you become her agent at that point? I mean, you talk about karma.
That mhm. That just worked out in a really, like, roundabout ways that, as I kept working in the industry, I got an
Mhm.
opportunity to be an agent, in New York, and so took the opportunity, and she just happened to already be on the board, and so I was her agent, and I'm
No.
not one to hold a grudge. Like I feel like, it was a lot of miscommunications. And so I was like, I'm not gonna do anything to hurt her career, obviously. It just was funny to me that like, oh, hi, you can't ignore me. I'm your agent now. I'm here to
We're here
help
to
you.
work
Hi.
together now. Oh my goodness. Oh, now I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to go watch Big Sexy on TLC. And they are not a sponsor. They should be a sponsor, but they are not a sponsor.
Yeah. It's long gone. You can't find it. You can find clips on YouTube, but if you dig, but the show is not in
Wow.
syndication
Okay.
anywhere. It's just
All right.
gone.
Maybe we'll have to
Mhm.
call somebody. I don't know. Call Carlos. Maybe we got plugs or something.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
I'd love to
that'd
see
be
it out
great.
there.
So let's backtrack a little bit because you are a model, a professional model. How I mean, were you always this outgoing and bubbly, like growing up? You said you grew up in the Bronx. Like, were you always that outgoing growing up, or or were you a timid person in high school? Like, what were you like growing up?
So there's
Mhm.
like two versions of me. The really younger me, like way before high school and stuff, I was really shy. So like I only talked to my mom, and that was pretty much it. Like I didn't like to talk to anybody in school. I was just very, very to myself. Some would say I was daydreaming. Now I realize
Mhm.
I'm a creative. And so there's a lot of creative creation going on in my head. But then uh, high school, I think I came more out of my shell. Bullying was over. Like
Mm.
bullying happened in middle school. So then once I was in high school, I blossomed. And so in the blossoming came a little bit more popularity and, nicer people and stuff like that. And I got to go to a performing arts high school. So I was super happy to be like, with peers that like to sing and act and do all the fun stuff that I like to do. But ultimately, like just a little side note, I had grown up in a house with drug addicted parents. So like it was a lot of trauma, a lot of
Mhm.
like instability. So school to
Escape.
me was like it was my release. It was my place. Yeah, it was like a
Mhm.
comfortable place to be. So that's where I got to fully be
Wow.
myself.
Wow. Well, I don't know if you know, but I'm a teacher, so I'm a physical education teacher. So I make it a point every time I see my and I call them my kids. Every time I come and say I have a smile on. It's a literally when one step out of my office, the red light is on and the performance starts. And not many people know that. People that are not teachers, they don't understand that. And I can't go out at night, late night, because they
Mhm.
can sense that. They can see my mood. They can see everything. They spend more time with me than they do their own parents and family. So if I'm in a bad mood, it's not going to be a good day for them.
Mhm.
And this may be the only escape from not an ideal situation. They may not be living at home. They may be homeless. They may be living with grandma. They may have, like you said, parents or a
Mhm.
guardian that's hooked on some type of drug, or there's an abusive relationship at home. We don't know. I've had students that live in a home of
Mhm.
15 kids. Their only escape where they get 2 to 3 meals a day. It's safe, it's warm, and
Mhm.
and it's maybe the only escape from the reality. And I try to tell my students, you have one book bag that you walk in, and that's your outside life. You don't have to bring all that stuff in here. In here, you're protected. Your teachers love you. Teacher want to help you. You have counselors. You have principals. Everyone's here for you. Then you have your homework book bag and your schoolwork and all that
Mhm.
stuff, and your friends here and this and that. And that should be a positive thing. And what I noticed a lot lately is that when I call a student over, they're very defensive right away. And I don't know, because I'm at a new school this year. I don't know because of their prior interactions with adults, their interaction with adults at home, you know, or outside in the outside world, that it's always a negative one. So once they started noticing that if I call you over, it's more for a one-on-one check-in. How are you doing? Did you eat today? What'd you do this weekend? Simple conversations just to check in with them. They're like, oh, every interaction is not a negative one. Oh, we can have conversation one-on-one adult level conversation. They're like, oh wow. So it diffuses them from being defensive. And now I can say, hey,
Mhm.
you didn't do your job today as a student. Why? I'm not gonna yell at you. You made that decision. You didn't decide not to dress, you decide not to participate, or you're disruptive. You chose those paths. Now there's repercussions. Your grade's gonna suffer, or I gotta call home, or I gotta email somebody. So what's going on? I can have those conversations because I've already diffused them before.
Mhm.
So they know that I'm doing it because I care and not
Mhm.
because I'm trying to be on their ass. So I can have those things. Like I had a student
Yeah.
that, they literally had 3 members of their family just pass away. So I just walked up to her and I'm like, she's never quiet
Mm.
and she's on her phone. I'm like, let me walk up to her. What's going on? She lets me know. I'm like, you know what? Go take a walk, come back. If you want to talk about it with me, great. If not, we'll send you to the counselor or we need to have you get picked up, whatever you need to do. We're here to help you. And then I found out before the counselor did. And so when I got the email from the counselor, I'm like, yeah, I already talked to her. She's good. You
Mhm.
know, we're in class. She's participating what she wants to
Mhm.
participate. I'm not nagging her. And again, and that's and maybe you had a different interaction in school. I didn't always have a positive interaction with
Mm.
my teachers in school. It's more authoritative. Do this, sit down, be quiet.
Mhm.
And that's not the
Mhm.
way that it should be done. It's very old school thinking, very military. Do as you're told, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you're not going to learn if you're not in a safe environment. If you're the teacher or the instructor is
Mhm.
not invested in the students, if you're there for just a paycheck or you hate your job, don't do it. And you gotta take that thing because, like you
Yeah.
said, like you went through that process, and I don't know how that affected you in middle school and in high school, but in high school that was your outlet was school,
Mhm.
and you were performing.
Yeah. It's a blessing that, that you realize that and that you give that to your students, and you offer them a safe energy because honestly, like you said, like even if they're okay when they get there, there's so much
Mhm.
processing trauma, stuff going on in the back of their head, thinking and stuff that it can affect them, in ways they're not even aware of in the moment. So it's good that you do that, and everyone should be
Thanks.
grateful for you being there. Honestly. Yeah. So for me, I was blessed enough that I had pretty good teachers, and I got to be in honors classes. So in honors, the high school I went to, we all were kind of the
Okay.
same kids in all
So
the
the cohort,
classes
right?
together. So almost all 4 years, I had the same kids, and yeah, so like I had my group, but I still kept to myself as far as
Mhm.
like what was going on at home. Like very few people knew the extent of like what I lived with, instability. I was homeless for a while. There was, domestic violence. There was a whole bunch of stuff. that I didn't share, but I was just grateful to have a place to go that was away
Hmm.
from that, for the time being. And unfortunately, in middle school, I lost like 200 and something days of eighth grade. Like, I lost almost a whole year because I was forced to stay home and take care of my siblings and, basically be a parent at age 13. But luckily, I still got to go to high school when I was supposed to, and all worked out.
Well, I mean, how
So,
did you go from like graduating middle school
thankfully.
and still being able to go to a performing arts high school? How did you manage that?
Okay, so if this was more of a spiritual podcast, we'd be talking about angels. Because literally, like I've got some angels, I'll tell you that much. I was supposed to get left back. And at that point, my mom was in prison. And so my mom had her lawyer call the middle school, talk to the principal, I think maybe even superintendent, all those people, and told them the situation and how it wasn't my fault. That if I could go to
Huh.
school every day, I would be there because I love school. Um, and they were like, all right, we're going to push her through, given the circumstances. But she doesn't get her first choice high school. We're just going to put her wherever she fits. We're just going to stick her in there. Her transcripts might be late, la la la. So they pushed me through, but they didn't realize they pushed me through to my first choice high school, which was a performing arts high school. so, so I got my first choice regardless. And I did, at first they put me in like they were called survey classes, which
Mhm.
are just, regular classes. And I had a teacher, Mrs. Geller was her name, in ninth grade, and we were doing Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, and she realized that I was catching on, like I understood Shakespearean. I could empathize with what was happening in the story when the other students were
Yes.
still trying to figure out the language. And so she had me take a test, and then they moved me to honors classes once they got the results. So that shifted everything for my
Wow.
high school
So we do
experience.
have a high school here, performing at a high school, which is not too far from me. It's a converted elementary school that got turned into
Mhm.
this performance, and I've been inside. It's pretty cool. It's a little cramped, but from my understanding, they go to it's kind of like a job. They're there from 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock. So from like 8 to 12, 30, 1 o'clock, I think. They go through their normal classes like any high school, and then they have their lunch, and then in the afternoon, um, they'd go into their chosen direction. So if they're in a band, or if they're in theater, or if they're whatever the arts that they are there, then that's their job, and that's what they do the whole afternoon. So you work hard in the morning, and then you get to do all the
Mhm.
fun stuff in the afternoon, whatever it may be. And was that something that was similar to your experience?
No, it's different. The classes were kind of like the performing arts classes were
Oh,
worked into the curriculum. So it was like, seventh period choir or whatever, like maybe third period is band. It just worked in really seamlessly. And because I am a joiner, like the volunteer joiner, I will join everything. I did. So I did band, I did choir, I did gospel choir, I did what else? Drama. I tried to join like everything
okay.
I could to experience it all, except for dance because let's be real, I'm not a dancer, but I did all the other things. And I think if it was so
Mhm.
focused on just one thing, I probably wouldn't have had as much of a great experience as I did because I need
Mhm.
diversity. Like I need even in my career, like I always have something going on that's not necessarily the thing I usually do, just because I need that outlet. So
So
yeah.
high school is great. You're performing in every single thing that just imagine. You're in every page of the yearbook essentially, and
Pretty much. And I
there
help
it is.
photograph
There
it
it
just to
is.
say.
She's like selfie, selfie. Uh, so yeah, you're all over the yearbook. You're in every single club, every single dance, everything, right? You go to all the dances and you go to all the events. How do you go from being that social butterfly to being in all those things and then becoming an adult and you're like, all right, what's the next step? You have all these great experiences and then it's like, what's the next step? What did you do?
Mhm. Um, yeah, so for me,
Okay.
I didn't wanna go to college right away. So, as much as I loved high school and I loved learning, college, I just felt like I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and so to me, like, going and spending tens of thousands of dollars, on an education, not knowing what I'm doing, just felt like it was just a little premature. So, what I did first is I got a job, and I worked in a bank, and then I moved on to a Fortune 500 financial firm. Um, and so I worked for a financial firm for, I think it was like 2 years first. Let me think. For a while, and then at age 22, I was like, "Okay, now I'm gonna go to college." And so, because I was like, "Now I know I want to go to college and I wanna, like, learn about the paranormal." And so I applied I applied to a school thinking they had some paranormal program, which they didn't. But they did have psychology, so they're like, "Study psychology instead of paranormal psychology." And I was like, "Sure." And went to the College of Mount St. Vincent in, the Bronx, in Riverdale, and, yeah, that was my journey for a while, and then I just thought, like, okay, like, when you come from a situation of poverty
Mhm.
and instability and, there's no generational wealth or anything, like, the first thing you think of is, like, I don't want that
Correct.
situation to be my situation, and so I went into finance because 'cause I'm like, "What do you do in
Yep.
New York? You work in
Yep.
finance, you get paid a lot of
Everybody's wearing a
money, like,
suit. Yeah.
you live a good life." Um yeah, yeah, I'm wearing a suit, I'm at a financial firm,
Mhm.
like, I should be fine, like, I should be, doing great. And then I tried that, and I actually have 7 years finance experience, as an executive administrative assistant in the financial industry, but I hated it. Like, if you could describe someone being miserable all the time, like, that was me. Like, I went in, I was bubbly. I think I was a personality hire, honestly. Like, I think I'm the one who, like, if somebody needed someone to smooth things over with somebody, they're like, "Oh, have Nikki call them," or have, and I was like, "Hi," and I messed up all the time, and I didn't do the reports I was supposed to do, but everybody loved me because I was happy with people. I just hated the job, and so so as I was doing that, I kept getting approached about
Oh.
modeling. So people would tell me, "You look great. You should model." Um, and this is like
Mhm.
early 2000s. And so in my head, I'm like, I don't look like a model. Like
Yeah,
those are
being
really
posed.
tall,
Yeah.
skinny women. Like I'm not. Yeah, right. You're like, you think Cindy Crawford, you think these models that like you see growing up. Um, but then there was this magazine out
Mhm.
that was called Mode, and it was for women sizes 12 and up. And I was like, wait a minute, these women look like mi familia. They look like my mom. They look like my grandma. They look like, women with bodies and boobies and all the things. And I was like, huh, like this is real. I guess I should look into it. Um, and this is pre,
Yeah, you're a
Facebook,
mi gente. You're a mi
pre
gente right now.
Instagram, like before all exactly. MySpace, mi gente. So I was like, all right. So I posted on this one website called plusmodels.com. This was a website back in the day. And there were industry people on there. I knew that. And I got all of this feedback that was just like, do it, do it. Yeah, you'd be great. Okay. And then someone reached out and was like, this woman's doing an open call for a new agency just for plus size models. You should go. And so I was like, okay. So walked in. As soon as I walked in, she looked at me and she goes, "You are the first model looking chick who's walked in here. You are signed." Just like that. And I was like, I'm signed. And my career started from there. Like pretty much that's how it all kicked off in 2004. So like
Wow.
20 years ago, legitimately.
So you get signed.
Mhm.
What's the first gig you get?
Yeah. The first gig I got was Lane Bryant had a
Okay.
magazine called Figure. And they hired me to be in Figure magazine. And we did like some shoots outside, we did a studio shoot. The studio
Mhm.
shoot was with another model. And at one point, they were like, "We're just gonna have Nikki." And so they had me jumping and doing all these things. And I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna give me the cover. Is my first shoot gonna be a cover? It wasn't. I I got a little
I mean,
ahead
why
of just a
wouldn't
little
you?
ahead of
You
myself,
got picked up
but
right away. Like you got
it was
signed right away when you walked in the door. Why wouldn't you get ahead of yourself? Like, I got this already. I'm a natural.
I'm like, clearly this is easy. But it was very similar in the beginning where like almost everything I went on, either I was put on hold or I booked the job. So like the same thing for a runway show for I
Hmm.
think it was Saks Fifth Avenue. I didn't have runway training. Like I didn't know what to do, but they were like, walk for us. And I just walk like I walk. And they're like, okay, booked. And I was like, okay. Like it just worked that way for me,
Hmm.
especially in the very beginning. And that was a lot of fun. It was eye opening.
Okay. How I just don't get this. You don't go to school for almost a year. You get the school that you wanted that they just threw you in, and it was your first choice. You tested into honors. You did everything in the sky in school. You walk into modeling and get picked up right away. Okay, usually people have to struggle when they go to like these things, and if you're like, yeah, be a model, and then you don't want to walk in the door, you're hired. All right, great. I'll see you there. Can you do runway? Sure. Oh, she's
Mhm.
great. Keep her on the morning. You know what? She'd be great on a she'd be great on TV. TLC. Yeah, Booker. Girl, you should be playing the model. Also,
I have. It doesn't work out. The
whatever
model does not
candle
work
you
out for
got there
me.
that you're praying to, send me too.
I like to think that, like
Mhm.
the whole angel thing, like I'm not joking about that. Like that was a big part of what got me through the darker part of my childhood, all of that stuff. Like literally talking to angels and asking for like help, assistance, all that, and then it happening that way instilled something in me. And maybe if we go scientifically, it's like energetic alignment or
Yes.
manifestation or whatever you want to call it. When I set my mind to something and I know that it's right for me and I feel it in my gut, it happens. Like, and that's something that I can't deny. And it's something I'm
Mhm.
trying to help other people do. And I'm seeing happen with the clients that I coach. It's the doubt
100%.
is what kills you. So when you know you can do something and you go for it with that
Mhm.
knowing, something happens. Like, even if it's not exactly how you think, it's
Yeah.
going to
I
happen.
mean, I couldn't agree more. I think um my first podcast, my first episode, it came out of serendipity. We had just started the page and we made a meme making fun of Michael Jordan. And this is during the last dance. And we put the only man to beat Michael one on one. And it was the security guard that beat him in quarters. I don't know if you saw Last Dance. You know, you being from New York and yeah, you're probably
Mm-mm.
a Knicks fan anyways. Um so the security you know,
I'm not
I
a
figured.
sports fan.
Um, you have the security guard who beats Michael Jordan in playing quarters off the wall. So we made a meme saying that's the only man to beat him one on one. We started getting DMs on our. We had just started Instagram that same week. Get in the DMs. Hey man, that's my dad. We're like, whatever, bro. Keep it pushing. He's like, no, for real, that's my dad. And he just picture after picture after picture after picture of him, Michael Jordan, and him, the rest of the security guards, all the people that were on the series on the TV. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, all right. So me and my former co-host, he's like, hey, can anybody, interview this guy, make a blog, do something? I'm like, I'll do it. I'm off in the summers. Let's do this. And I literally FaceTimed him and recorded the audio of my phone. That's how I did it. That was my first episode. I didn't know what I was doing. I just felt like it had to get done. And I'm like, I'm personable. I
Mhm.
love sports. I love the Bulls, and this is a great story. I didn't even write any questions. I just literally just went for it. And he was super
Mhm.
nice. I ended up getting the call messed up though. I was dating a girl at the time, and her mom passed away from COVID as I was recording. So she called me in a panic because, her mom had just
Mm.
passed. So I lost the recording. So I had to ask him if he would come back the next week and explain what happened. He was like more than gracious. But it wasn't the same energy because a lot of the questions were similar. So he kind of knew exactly what I was going to ask. Um, and now that we are 187 episodes into the sports podcast, people come up to me like, why don't you upgrade or fix the first episode? And I always tell them no. I I want you to see where I started, and I like to remind myself anytime I think I'm doing amazing. No, I'll go back to that first episode, and I listen to it. I'm like, wow, that was bad. But the only way I'm gonna
Mhm.
get good is by jumping into the
Mhm.
deep end and start swimming. And once you're in the middle, you got to keep swimming. There's no going back because
Absolutely.
you're already in the middle. Keep going.
Yep.
Just keep
You're
going.
not gonna drown.
And no, and
Yeah.
like you're saying, like the manifestation and realizing that something's for you. I One week I didn't have my co-host. He was unavailable. And I'm a very much a stickler for that show where it has to be a show every week for our listeners because they depend on us. And I did not want to disappoint them
Mhm.
because I don't want to lose my listeners. And I did a show on Minnie Minoso, the first Afro Latino to break the barrier for the Chicago White Sox. And he played for 7 decades. And I went through it and I just showed my passion, and how many times I met him. And he was, the Cuban Comet, and he was so nice. And he had just passed away. And I was like, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And reasons. And then my co host, he hits me up when he listened to it. He's like, where's that passion been this entire time? He's like, dude, you should be like this every week. And I'm like, yeah, I should be. And I took that to notice the like be the person on air that people want to listen to. Be genuine, be passionate, and after that, things will
Mhm.
come. So when you're saying affirmation and put stuff out there and
Yep.
put stuff out there that's good for you, and I tell my students the same thing: positive energy breeds positive energy. So continue to be a nice person, and good things will happen to you.
Yep.
If you're a person that's doing bad things will continue to happen to you. So
Mhm.
you- yes,
Absolutely. It's an alignment. I think that's the thing that we don't talk about enough in our society, the relationship between energy and manifestation. Like it's not just like, "Oh, I'm telling myself I'm getting this thing." It's like, "No, I'm aligning with the energy of the thing so I can feel it and call it in." And it's worked for me in many ways, even Tulsa. Like knowing that I was up for this grant to come here, not having anything to match the energy of Tulsa, because
mhm,
I don't know what
mhm,
Tulsa's like. I'd never been here before. I go online and I start downloading wallpapers from my phone and my laptop of Tulsa, like just to get
mhm.
myself in that energy of what it's like, what it looks like, watch
Okay.
YouTube videos, the whole thing. And so then when I had my interview, like I felt aligned and then I got it. So it was like, all right, this is how you just any way you can, if you put yourself in the situation, in the place, in the idea of it, you call it in. Like it just matches. But if you're constantly thinking that's not going to happen or that won't happen to me or
Never
I
gonna
don't
happen.
know about that, like it's a
Yeah,
lot
you're
harder to
attracting
accept.
negative energy instead of the
Yeah.
positive energy of what you're
Yeah.
right. So you're pushing stuff away instead of bringing it into you. All right, everything's going great in modeling. We're gonna pick
Yep.
up where we left off there. We got off on a tangent. We're gonna do
Yeah.
that a lot, people. We're definitely scatterbrains. I know I'm like that, like squirrel.
We like
Um,
attention.
yeah, I'm very much like that. You're modeling. Everything's going great. Any speed bumps? I mean, did you have like a long time between bookings, or did you have something to interrupt your modeling, or was it just straight through, nose to the grind, just going
Just to clarify, I was modeling while still being executive administrative assistant in
gangster?
finance. so so I
Mhm,
always had a side thing going on. So that was, hard to juggle, but I also didn't keep it a secret. Like I was happy to share what I was doing. I used my days off and paid time off or whatever for it. Um, there was speed bumps. It was mostly like with management of the agency and like
mhm,
feedback I was getting from clients. And so once clients start giving you negative feedback about not you,
mhm.
but your agency, like you got to kind of make choices. And so and so I had to make a choice to change agencies, And with that comes, of course, some lulls because now, you're trying to get a new agency and you're hoping they're going to get you the same momentum and all of that, which there was definitely some like ups and downs in that. But then I ended up actually working as a wholesale assistant wholesale representative. So
Okay.
in fashion. So I ended up a client had high okay, long story short, this amazing woman I got 10
It's
stories.
fine. We'll
It's
cut
gonna
it
be a
up. Don't
three-hour
worry.
long
We
episode,
got
guys.
time.
Okay, this amazing woman hired me to model for her in California. And so she flew me out to LA. And when we met, we hit it off. We literally look like sisters from another mister, like same hair, same jewelry,
Whoa.
same t-shirt, I think. We like it was like sisters. And yeah, and so then she ended up moving her wholesale
Mhm.
company from LA to New York. And so since I was in New York, I would go to the sales and she'd have me dress up in some of the
Mhm.
clothes and I would talk to the customers and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, listen, if I can match your salary in finance, will you come work for me? And I was like, well, I'm not going to turn that down. so, so I became her assistant wholesale rep. And so that's actually the first time I went to Chicago was with her because we went all over the country with the clothing lines of the designers that she repped. And so that's also how I got to
Mhm.
know more plus size designers, how I got to learn more about the back end of the fashion industry. And yeah, got a whole new experience out of that. And that was it kind of took me away from modeling a little bit, but it ended up leading me towards bigger opportunities that turned into my career and what it became.
I'm just trying to process this. Your life at this point should be a Steven Spielberg movie.
Steven, call me up. What's
I got
up?
the time. Call me up. Let's go. Oh my goodness. All right. So now we're traveling the country with this new clothing line. You're modeling and you're helping with, with sales. Obviously, because you're in finance, you know a little bit about that. You've been in fashion. So you have a well-rounded
Mhm,
education when it comes to this position at this point. So you're doing all three at the same time. You're modeling, you're doing your fashion stuff, and you're selling and you're getting to be yourself. We're out in front. Okay. So we're there. What's next?
mhm. Yeah. So during the course
Mhm.
of that whole experience, my friend boss didn't have like a big budget for marketing. So we had to obviously create marketing materials, we had to do photo shoots and so on. And so me and another model friend of mine decided to photograph each
Mhm.
other in the clothing lines that we represented. We model and photograph. So I
Mhm.
photographed her, she photographed me. Um, and that's when I discovered I
Photography.
had a talent for photography. And so yeah. So what ended up happening was when we put the photos out for the company, we didn't say who shot them. Like we kind of just left it
All
ambiguous
right.
since
Amateur.
both my
Right.
friend and
Yeah.
I
Right at this
were
point.
not
Yeah.
professional photographers. We're just like, yeah, really just put it out there. So we put it out there and the comments were like, oh my God, these photos, these photos. And it were the photos that I took of my friend. And honestly, I like them more
Mhm.
than the ones I modeled in. Like, I was just like, "I love this." And so, once it came out that it was me, it was just like, "Girl, you need to get into
Mm.
photography." And I was like, "I think I love this." Like,
Yeah.
I think this is something I wanna do. And so I went and got a camera,
Mhm.
inexpensive, like, Canon Rebel camera, taught
Very cool.
myself, watched YouTube videos,
Yeah.
photographed my friends and family, like, did all
Mhm.
the things you do to teach yourself. And then a model reached out to me and I photographed her for her portfolio, and she just happened to be with Wilhelmina Models. And then they reached out to me, and I became their approved photographer. And that was my
Oh
first
my
client.
god. I got it.
I swear I'm not making this up. It's a lot. It's like talking about it is one thing. I can see how people are going to be like, what
Girl,
is
you are like
happening?
the female Forrest Gump.
I
Like
feel like
Forrest met
it.
Elvis.
In this conversation, I
Forrest,
feel like it more
went
than
to the
ever.
army. Forrest saved Bubba. He saved Lieutenant Dan. He played ping pong. He met four pres. Girl, you on your way. All right.
Steven, where are you?
Oh my God.
Spielberg.
All right. So now we're talking to one of the biggest modeling agencies in the world.
Yeah, I was an approved photographer for them, so they would send me models about once or twice a week, and then I'd
Where are we
photograph them
living
for
at
their
this point?
portfolio,
Where are we living? 'Cause we
and
went back to New York after the
New
LA
York.
and traveling. Okay, so we're back in New York and they're selling you.
Yeah, LA was
Okay, so
just
we're
for
back in
a
New
job.
York.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
so I
where are you
lived in
shooting these models? Are they giving you location or are you shooting them like, in, natural settings?
Mostly I would have them come to my
Mhm,
apartment in Riverdale in the Bronx, and they would just come to my apartment and I would like do things to the walls and like bring them to my
mhm,
rooftop or shoot in my neighborhood. It was just I'm very much an in the moment I call myself an intuitive photographer. So like in
mhm.
the moment, I could see in my mind the images that we're gonna create, and then we create them, and then I work with natural light. So at that time, I used studio natural light. Now I just use natural light. So sunlight is my main light source.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay, no, we're good. We're doing great here. I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much. All right, so we haven't got the TLC
Yeah.
yet, right? We haven't got the
No.
TLC. Uh,
Not yet. No.
so we're shooting for the biggest modeling company. They're sending you models. Now, are you making more money than you did in your
Mhm.
previous job as the wholesale assistant?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely was. I was making
Okay.
close to what I made in
Okay.
finance at that point. So in my mind, I was just like, well, this is what I should be doing. Because it went from Wilhelmina to other agencies in New York that I was shooting with
Mhm,
as well. So it wasn't just them. So I was shooting with lots of different agencies, as well as like freelance models and stuff like that. And then I started shooting some clothing, like little things here and there. So that became the focus. And at that time, I was married. And so I had said to my ex husband, I was like, that I'm gonna leave this other stuff, focus on the photography, blah, 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 blah. And his response was, I want to know what it's like to be single. I was like, what?
uh,
And yes, that's when he announced that he
we're
wanted
gonna
a
pump the
divorce.
brakes here. So wait a second. Where's where in the timeline did you start this relationship? Like, how did y'all meet? How did you get? What point did you get married? What's going on? Because we literally got the Forrest Gump movie version, female version here, but where's you got to have a romance? You got to have a romance in any kind of movie. You got to attract, you got to get that female audience, right? So, wh- wh- where did this happen?
Uh-huh.
Who it is? I mean, he's not going to watch this show. You can spill the beans. It's all good.
Yeah, no. I met him. I met him in college. So you have to remember, I took a break. So I
Right.
was 22 when I started
Mhm,
college, and he was 18. And so when we met,
mhm,
there was an age difference. And he was so intelligent, also very shy. And I don't know if you notice, I'm not very shy anymore. So I just like would come up to him and talk to him about I went clubbing and la 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 la, and he'd just be like, "Oh, okay," just like in shock. He's like, "Who is this woman talking to me?" Yeah, and I'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" I just thought he was adorable, and so we got married in like
okay.
2005. So we dated for 5 years, got married in Las Vegas, and then ended up eventually yeah, when my career took off. So like I helped him, I pretty much helped
Mhm,
support him while he was in college. We were in college together, but I had left for work, whatever, whatever. I helped support him during
mhm,
that time that he was finishing school. And then when I found myself and exactly what I wanted to focus
mhm.
on, which was the photography, he decided it was time for him to discover what it was like to be single. And so
Wow.
that was how he told me he wanted a
And
divorce.
how did that affect you? Because you're
Mhm.
like, oh man, these
Yeah.
things are going great. I'm moving forward. I'm moving upward. I'm getting all these cool things, these opportunities, and then you get hit with that, that sack of bricks on top of your head. What's going through your mind at that point?
Yeah. So, we talk, in society, we talk about
Mhm.
trauma
Right.
and triggers, right? Triggers. So for me, that was triggering because I had instability as a kid. So all of a sudden, my stable life with my cats and my husband and my car and our apartment and all of this stuff was now going to be totally ripped from me, at least in my perspective at the time. Um, in hindsight, yes, great.
Mhm,
I'm glad we're
mhm.
not together. Like that was not going to go well had we stayed together. But in the moment, it was just shattering. Like I didn't know what was going to happen or how I was going to have this career or where I was going to live or what was going to happen. And he had just started his teaching career, so he's a teacher in the Bronx, and so yeah, it was shocking, and I had to move out, and I ended up moving in with my wholesale friend boss in Brooklyn, and it was the height of the recession. Um, and photography work dried up pretty much right away, and just it was probably the hardest time of my life, probably from like well, my adult life from like 2007 to about almost 2009. It was a lot of instability, transition. We tried to get back
Oh.
together. That was not a good thing. Um, yeah, oof. That was not a good thing. That's when I started smoking
Whoa!
cigarettes at that time. Like,
Alright,
nope,
so for the audience,
not
this
a good
this is the
time.
part of the movie where the struggle and
But
before she overcomes everything. So right at the peak, right? Right there, you know? So
yeah,
so you okay,
yeah,
we're going to
that was that was
we're
that.
divorced at this point. You know, he wants to be single. You
Yes.
are exploring, you know, your photography. It's going great. All right, so we're at photography. What's going on? Like you have all these agencies throwing you work. Is this something that you know? Obviously, you are still taking
Hmm.
photography, but I feel like you go through phases where, all right, cool, I'm going to do this. This is fun, and then, hey, what's over there? Oh, that's cool. I want to try that over there too. Oh man, I'm really good at this. And then you do that for a little bit. And then, you know, you start combining all these skills that you like, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. And you put these all together and then you get a new career. It's like you have clay and then you get another color clay. You're like, oh, look at it. If we combine these, it'll make a great purple. And you're like, "Oh, wow, I have so much purple. Oh, cool, there's green over
Hmm.
there." And then you just make something new with the new piece of clay. And this is continues going on. And this is probably because of the positive affirmations that you're doing and the positive energy that you have. We're modeling. I mean, we're taking photography. Is this what leads you to Big Sexy and TLC?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think so. Just in that, like now I'm just in that world. So like I'm in that world. I know lots of
Mhm.
models. I know lots of
Right.
people. I know lots of people in the industry. And so I think in the knowing is how people are like, oh yeah, I remember Nikki would be good at this or something. And so then they recommend me for things. And I think that's kind of how it
Mhm.
ended up happening that way. Um, yeah, that's how Big Sexy kind of, someone was like, you should do this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Hey, oh, I'm on Big Sexy, just kind of, and then Carlos finds me and I'm in a movie, it just kind of happens. I'm just not one to be like, I should never do something, you know what I mean? Like, unless it's something
Mhm.
totally I would never do, but if an opportunity comes that I'm like, that could be a great experience, or who knows what could come of it, or it's something I've always been curious about, I'm gonna,
You see how we
give it a
went full
shot.
circle
Why
there?
not? Yeah, good job. You're
Woo!
you're such a great host.
Carlos, eat your heart out. That's how you write a movie.
Listen, he's gonna be
Let's
like,
do
"Wait, I
this.
haven't
Let's
made her
do
movie
this.
yet. Let's do this."
All right, so you've done all those most wonderful
Mhm.
things, and like I said, we just came full circle. But you have a philosophy of empowering others to live intuitively and in a profound, impactful way. How do you integrate this philosophy into the work that you're doing now, and what advice do you give to individuals struggling to find their voice in the fashion industry?
Yeah, so with all that experience, I
Mhm.
eventually got into coaching. And so for me, now having been on every side and I got to be an agent and all that stuff in the fashion industry, like I started to see patterns not just in my career as a model, but patterns in other people's struggles modeling as well. And I started to see like, wait, if we focus on this, this could be really good for them. Or if we took this out, this would work better. And so for me, it was like, okay, what are the main things that will help people succeed? One,
Hmm.
embracing all the things that make you you. So, like, so many models have curly hair, but they
No,
straighten their hair because they think that's what clients want, or they cover their freckles, or they fix the gap in their teeth, or or they trim their brows that are nice and full. Like they do all these things thinking that they have to conform into what they think the beauty standard is, but their uniqueness is actually
correct.
what clients are looking for that
Hmm.
sets them apart from everyone else. So, like teaching people to embrace probably the thing you got picked on the most in middle school is the thing that's probably going to make you the most successful. And so shifting the mindset has been a big part of my coaching, as well as just learning the business, empowering yourself with the knowledge. So many people think if I take pretty pictures and I know how to walk and I'm cute, like I'm going to be successful. Or if I get signed, I'm going to be successful. You're going to get signed and
Hmm.
you're going to sit on a board with 400 models and nothing's going to come of it if you don't make something of it, if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, if you don't properly prepare for the business, you're just going to be stuck, wondering why it didn't work out. And the average model takes 5 to 7 years to make a living off of modeling, and that's how if they do everything the way they think they're supposed to. They get signed, they get their pictures, blah blah blah. But it doesn't take that long if you know exactly what to do ahead of time. If you plan, if you strategize, if you know how to use the system to your advantage in a positive way, you can actually accelerate that by years. You can do that in months instead of
Give
five
me
to seven
something that would
years.
help a person accelerate that process. I mean, we don't want to give away all your secrets, but like, what's one thing that would accelerate that process?
A strategy. It's a strategy. It's knowing exactly what you're going to do when you get out there. So it's not just waiting. So much of the
Hmm.
industry is just waiting. It's I got signed, I'll wait for a casting. I'll wait for to find out if I book the job. I'll wait for Target or let's say the Gap to find me.
No, there's this
Okay, they're not
that
going to find
this
you.
high. Right.
They're not even if your agent
Hmm.
even if your agent is amazing, right? Think about an agent. An agent has hundreds of models to deal with, to promote, to schedule. They have hundreds of castings that they have to also organize and so on. Like they're already
Hmm.
like usually stretched very thin. They're not going to remember every single person. If you never check in with your agent, if you never update your photos, if you never go in for measurements, if you never do all the things you're supposed to do as a model, and then you sit around and go, this agency don't work for me. They don't do anything. Like,
What are you doing to
what
set yeah, what are you doing to put
what
yourself
is
up
that,
there?
you know?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
are you
How are you
doing? They
right.
get
So you gotta
20%, you get 80. You get 80% of instead of their
right.
20, put in 80% of that work, you know? A lot of models still think that they work for an
Mhm.
agency. The agency works for you. You're an
Correct.
entrepreneur, you're an independent contractor. So you have to approach this business as an entrepreneur. You have to look at it and say to yourself, what materials do I need to make sure that I'm noticed? Who do I need to contact at the Gap, at Target, at these places
Mhm.
to get myself in the room for them to see my pictures and for me to make it happen? Um, and I've been very fortunate that I have a 97% success rate in 3 years. So 97% of the dozens of models I've worked with have not just gotten better and booked more clients, they booked their dream clients.
Mhm.
So like we sit down like this, I say, "Who are your dream clients?" And they say to me,
Mhm.
"Adidas, QVC, Netflix, Dunkin' Donuts."
Wow.
And guess what? They're working for them. They do it in months.
Wow.
It happens.
So people are signing up for this boot camp that we're talking about. These strategies that you're bestowing on these models, and essentially, like you said, they are their own entity. They're on their own boss. Like you have to promote yourself and work hard because you're an independent contractor. So you're putting them through these, model
Mhm.
intensive boot camp. That's how you labeled it, correct?
Well, now that was how it started. They're actually now the
Uh,
Modelpreneur Masterclass. So, I combine model and entrepreneur. So the Modelpreneur
Hmm.
Masterclass is like a 90-day program, and usually it's a group program, and I teach them all of this, and it's
Hmm.
mostly a mindset shift, and combined with the knowledge, combined of knowing like how to go after work, what sites you should be on to get work, what materials you need, what strategy you need, how to work social media, all of that stuff is what
Hmm.
we delve into, and I'm telling you, like, for me, it still shocks me, even though I developed the program, it still shocks me to see them book these clients and see them working. Like, I know they can, I believe in them, and then seeing it happen is a whole other ballgame. Like, I have one client who's in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial with a New York Nick. Like, that's something that we talked about prior, and
Wow.
she's doing it,
That is insane.
Yeah.
Goodness. I'm just dumbfounded by this. Literally, this should definitely just be a movie. I'm just I'm
So this would be the sequel to Forrest Gump. So if Forrest went and taught everybody how to have the extravagant life
right.
that he did, and they
Yeah,
do,
this is definitely the
that's the
sequel.
sequel.
So reading the bio
Mhm,
that's up here, and people have gone on to work for Ashley Stewart, Lane Bryant, Fashion to Figure, Adidas, Target, Netflix, QVC, Sheen. I mean there's these names are nothing to laugh at. So if you're getting over 90% of your clients to be signed to these labels, you want to call them that, ladies and gentlemen, find your girl, sign up, crack them piggy banks, pay the woman. Make sure you sign up for the class. We'll put the link in the bio when
mhm.
we send this all out. But that I mean, your story is just amazing, amazing, amazing. Um, wow. Like
Thank
I mean,
you.
I know I put a lot of levity into everything we talk about, but there's your story is something that's inspirational, and you know, I everyone wants that quick success. Um, and especially in this generation, that's I call them the TikTok generation, where they think that just because they do a dance or they post a funny video that they're going to get TikTok famous and make millions of dollars and all that stuff. And it takes work. That they see the Paul brothers, right? Jake and the guy Nick, and I don't know what's the other guy's name. Uh, they've been shooting YouTube videos for 15 years. People don't remember that. They were shooting funny videos for a long, long, long time when YouTube first came out. They put in the work.
Mhm,
So people think that they're overnight sensation. No, they put in a lot of work.
mhm.
And that's what you have to do to be successful. You have to do a lot of stuff on
Yeah.
the back end. And we're very similar where, we jump into something like, all right,
Mhm,
well, I got to learn it. Well, I got to learn podcasting. All right, great. All right. What kind of mics do I need? Okay. I use those. Those don't work. All right. Got to get a new one. All right. I need a soundboard. All right, cool. Let's buy a soundboard. All right. I got to get a new camera. I need a new laptop. All right. What's next? Well, I want to be on YouTube. Now I don't want to just be just audio. All right. How do we edit video? I'm learning how to do that by myself. No one is gonna hold your hand and walk you across the country and say,
mhm,
this is the USA and this is all the cool No one's gonna do that for you. Go out and explore, go into the deep end and find what your niche
mhm.
is. And now it's funny that you say that the thing that can define you is the stuff that you got bullied for in middle school. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
I would get bullied because
Mhm,
I was
mhm.
light skinned Latino. Like, oh, you're white, bro. I'm good with it.
Yep.
At some
Mhm.
point you become comfortable in your own skin, and that's when you're dangerous. Once you're comfortable in your own skin and you're like, oh, I'm good at
Yeah.
this. Oh, I'm good at that. You're a dangerous person, and if you don't take advantage of your talents, you're just wasting it. And I know that.
Mhm. I
Go
mean,
ahead. No, go ahead.
yeah. I was gonna say that to me, that's the thing, like taking advantage of your talents, recognizing that what makes you unique is a talent and it's something you can contribute to the world.
No.
And you don't have to be perfect, right? Like your first recording was not perfect, but you still put it out there and you leave it out there. But a lot of times, the younger generation starts to think, oh, if I don't have the best thing right away, the best camera, the best mic, the best, I can't do it. And then they
Mhm.
wait and then it just goes
Mhm.
away. It fades into something else. And I cannot stress how valuable it is to be scrappy and to be creative and come up with it. And eventually, by your fifth video, sixth video, 12th, 20th video, you get the things that you want. But ultimately, you got to start somewhere, or else you
And
just
that's
don't
the big
start.
thing.
You just don't start. I wasn't a perfect
Mhm.
model or
Yeah,
photographer.
the biggest step is
Hmm.
starting, and
Yeah.
people don't wanna be critiqued.
Hmm.
That's the problem. They think it's just I do something, that's success. They don't see the struggle. They're not willing to put themselves in a vulnerable position. And when I edited how I edited on my Apple and it was on GarageBand, it came with the laptop. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And it sounds really bad. And I just like, you know what? It's gotta go out there. I want it to be out there for the world. It's probably my top
Hmm.
3 episode ever listened to. And it sounds horrible. So, like, when people listen to that and then they listen to a recent, they're like, "Wow, your production value has leaps and bounds to what your first episode is." And I'm like, "Yeah." But at the end of the day, you're gonna listen for content, even if it's the audio is not that great, and if it's a good story, that makes better content, which is gonna drive you to listen more.
Yeah. It's content. It's content, it's growth, and it's authenticity. I think they did a study that shows the thing that resonates most with people, the one thing they could pick up
Mhm.
on more than anything in energy when they're in your presence, it's not whether you're telling the truth, it's not your money, it's not your success, it's your authenticity. They can feel that more than anything else. Authenticity can come through in the scrappiness, in the rough cut, in the bad sound, because your passion is speaking for you. It's saying,
Mhm.
I'm putting this out there regardless, and someone on the other end receives that and goes, wow, they put this out there regard, like they're just there with
Yeah,
this information, they know it's important, and then they get to go
yeah.
on that journey with you and see you grow. And so that in itself resonates with people, because then it shows them they can do the same, that if they think they're not ready, but they can still put it out there and grow, and it will resonate with someone else. So it's this like cycle of
Mhm.
inspiration every time we do something like that. And that to me is that's creativity,
Right.
that's
And,
creation, it's
something
beautiful.
it always something that just, like, it just grinds my gears, and I don't know how you deal with this as a creative person, but, your family and friends, the closest ones to you, are the least people that support you. Like, you'll be like,
Mhm.
I've got like 1,500 friends on Facebook, and about 500 of those I went to high school with. And let's say 100 of them I see almost once a year, twice a year. And out of those, maybe 50 I see all the time. And not one is supporting. And that grinds my gears, you know?
Mhm.
And I'll meet somebody at a bar and they're like, oh, you know a lot about sports. I'm like, yeah, I run a podcast. For real, let me get it. And they sign up right away and they're like, I'll listen to it. And I find that just dealing with being genuine.
Mhm.
I'm not at the bar or anywhere I go just to promote it. I'm just being genuine. If someone has a conversation, I'll bring it up. And right away they're like, I'll support. And I feel like, why can't our
Mhm.
people that are in our lives that care about us be as supportive as the stranger that you just met on the subway? And it just makes no sense to me. And I really appreciate when they
Mhm.
do that. I mean, when I meet a stranger and they just really pick up and they follow you and they message you, oh, I love the show. I love your points. Or when we're live and I don't know who this person is, but they come every Monday night. He's like, hey guys, I'm back. I love your show. I love your content. And, I put his comments on the screen so that he can feel, you know, part of the show and accept it. It doesn't cost me anything to help, him feel that way. And I do appreciate that person being part of the podcast,
Mhm.
but it makes no sense to me. So I don't know
Yeah.
I want to know your impression. I know I talked a little bit too much about that. I want to know how you deal with it. What is your impression and how you've gone through this?
Yeah. So I've given it a lot of thought as well. I think for me, because of the childhood being unstable, I'm not used to having
Ah,
my people support me. I sang in choir. I had performances. I played varsity volleyball. I did all these things, and these people did not like.
Hmm.
Maybe one or two would show up, but most didn't show up. And so having that feeling then, I think translated to me thinking, I'm just going to do what I do. Whoever comes, comes, doesn't come. I don't care. It's for me now. And if I inspire other people, great. And so I kind of shifted my mentality around it. But then, like later on, as I got more into like spirituality and personal development, what I started to understand is that the people that we come from, the people that we grow up with,
Correct.
they're used to seeing one version of you. And even if you're multifaceted and have all these other things going on, they kind of put you in a box, right? And so whenever you start branching out and growing and
Hmm.
expanding outside of that box, it's like cognitive dissonance. It's this thing in their heads that go, wait, that's not how we know Jose. That's not how what? That's not how we know Nikki. And that's not, and
Hmm.
so it's just this limited ability to fully see you, fully see what you're capable of and what you contribute to the world, because they want to see you as how they always saw you. And so I think part of it is that, and part of it is a reflection on where they haven't gone
Hmm.
in a lot of ways in their own lives, things that they haven't gone after. I know because I am the
Hmm.
type of person to just go after things. I've left people behind in a way that they just look at me and go, why is she doing all these things? Or how come, she's gonna try to do this now? What does she think she could do it? And then I do it. And then I think it makes them feel a certain way. And they still love me and I still love them and I understand that,
There's
but I
resentment.
don't think they'll ever be
Yeah,
the
there's
same
resentment.
supportive people
There's
like
resentment.
others. Hmm?
And because they don't look
Yeah.
within saying,
Yeah.
I could have done this, I couldn't done that. And believe me, I hear that a lot. You hear that if you go to a bar, a lot of guys like, oh yeah, I was really good at basketball. And I could have been drafted to the NBA. I'm like, yeah, bro, you're 5'6". You were never gonna get drafted by the NBA. You're too short, bro. It was never gonna happen for you. But you hear I would have, could
Mhm.
have, I was really good at
Mhm.
this, but they never pursued it. And my one of my favorite movies, top
Yeah.
3, is A Bronx Tale. When they came,
Mm.
and I have to check tickets for Chaz when he comes to the city. When they remade it into a play and they came in, I think they did a limited engagement, 10 days in Chicago. I was for the first show, first in line, great seats. And afterwards, I did the meet and greet. I bought the poster, I bought the CD, I got it signed. I went all out, and I bought a T-shirt. And the teacher says the the biggest regret in life is wasted talent. You know, and I wear that, and I'm like, this is what I live by. Like, don't waste your talent. Don't sleep on an opportunity.
Mhm.
Um, my first episode for this podcast uh, is a neighborhood guy, a little older than I did. He went to Wells High School, which was not a very good high school. He got the opportunity
Mm.
to be the Spanish commentator for the Bulls. Is for the Bulls, for the Blackhawks, the Bears, the Cubs, and I think for Western Governor State, I believe. So he's doing 5 different in Spanish. In Spanish. I mean, it's his native language, which is great. But for us that grew up in the hood, we didn't know nothing about hockey. We knew it was down the street because I live a mile away from the United Center. But I asked him, how do you call a sport you don't know in Spanish? First of all, it doesn't translate, word for word. And second of all, you have to learn the rules and then interpret them in Spanish.
Mhm.
And you just got a phone call and you just said yes. And he's like, yeah, I just, I did that. And I went on YouTube and I learned. And I'm like, great. And I go, that is my point. If someone gives you an opportunity to say yes and then figure it out later, because that opportunity is not going to come around when you figure it out.
Bingo.
That opportunity is already 10 miles down.
Yep.
Sorry for you. Left you
Mhm.
behind.
Yep, exactly, exactly. I,
Oh,
just short story, I just booked my
woohoo.
first national commercial as a model, and I got flown to LA, I did the whole thing, last week or a week and a half ago, and I didn't
Really?
know I had to read lines, I had to do the callback, I had to do all these things. And I did it with confidence, but it's not like I have a ton of acting experience, outside of our movie
Right.
and, some reality show stuff. But like, I was like, if I don't
Hmm.
try, how will I know? And then that was first the first audition I did this year, and I booked it, and not even a month later I was filming. And it was a situation where when I'm on set, I'm gonna have to wing it. Like, I'm gonna have to show up. They didn't have lines for me for the day until I was on set. I had to, like, get there and be like, "Thank God I had Carlos's training from being on set, being in the energy of it and coming up with it," because that's when they gave me the lines. But I'll tell you right now, the executives from the company, not just the directors, they literally said to me, "Wow, you are such a good actress." And I was like, thank you,
Right.
because they believed that I was, because I did what I was supposed to do, and I took the opportunity, and I didn't psych myself out and talk
Hmm.
myself out of it because I wasn't ready. I knew how to prepare and get ready and be in the moment, and so that is important. You have to take it, you'll work it out, you'll figure it out, you'll be okay. It may not be perfect. It may be like the first podcast recording. It may be like, some of my early photo shoots were not great as a photographer, but you grow and you learn. But if you never take the experience, you never know. And my philosophy is I don't want to be on my deathbed going, what if I regret, I regret, I regret. I want to be like, I did
Yep.
it, I did it, I did it, I did it, good,
100%.
let's
I live
go.
life,
That's
to
it.
the fullest as much as I can. And you know what? It was a great time, and I'll see you guys later. That's how I feel about it too. So, like me doing this podcast, is really about just like celebrating the people that I
Mhm.
meet and I've met that are doing great things. And I say it's called InPodSicated because you get intoxicated with you know learning from other people's experiences. Like, some people are into art, some people are into music, some people are into sports. Whatever it is, you have a passion for it. And obviously you have a multitude of passions and you're really good at all of them. and
I do.
but the only way you're going to find out if you're good at something is if you go and try it. It's simple as that. And don't
Mhm,
be afraid to
mhm.
fail. Failure is your greatest teacher. And I tell my kids that every single day. Every single day. You're not gonna make every single jump shot.
Absolutely.
You're going to
There
fail.
Mhm. There's
Yes.
no successful people, successful stories without failures. They all have them, and some of them have multiple ones, and that's the best way to learn. That is, you
Mhm.
have to go through it to
Um,
know. Mhm.
we're gonna wrap up pretty soon, but what future projects or initiatives are you most excited about? And then how do you envision your ongoing role in shaping the narrative of beauty and inclusion in the fashion industry?
I'm most excited about coaching. Like I can't get over it. There's been times where I'm like, especially as a solopreneur, you start to get to a point where you're like, is this what I really want to keep
Mhm.
doing? I'm doing all the things, and as a solopreneur, you're your own
Yeah.
marketer, your own editor, your own all the things, and you get a little tired. But I get energy and a boost of energy with talking to these models, with helping them see their vision, with seeing them succeed. There is no greater feeling for me than giving back in that way. And so, more of that definitely going forward. Um, there's some things in the works that I can't fully talk about yet,
All
but
right. All right.
people will see it. And, and then this year, as my 20th year as a model, I really decided, like, I'm going to go after it, and this only gives me more knowledge to share with the models. This helps me really tap into, like, what's happening now in the industry since COVID. So a lot of self-taping and all that stuff, and that's what the models have to do now, and so I'm now giving them new knowledge as opposed to the knowledge I had before or the secondhand knowledge. So now it's firsthand again. So just having that experience is also
You're
exciting
essentially
for
you're a
me.
teacher. You know that, right? Yeah, you're an educator. Yes, you are
Yeah,
an
I'm an
educator,
educator.
and there's no bigger reward to an educator than seeing your students succeed. I have students that made the NFL. I have students that are on the operating floor doing surgeries. Those are my success stories.
Wow.
Those are the way I know I did a good job is when I see success stories. So I know that's how you feel. It's a high. It really is a high to be like, oh my God, yes, and you're so proud. And not many people get to experience that or understand what that is. So
Yeah,
um yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up,
absolutely.
and I
Mhm.
just before we do that, I want to say a big thank you. This has been amazing. I mean, we need a director for this movie. This is going to be a phenomenal movie. It's going to win 12 Oscars. We're going
Carlos!
to blow out Oppenheimer. They're going to win 11. We're going to win 12. Best motion picture, soundtrack, everything. Um, who do we cast as you? Who do we cast? Are you self casting?
Let's do it. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Like it'd have to be someone young, young and fun, and hopefully Afro Latina. So if you could think of a young, fun Afro Latina, that would
I wouldn't have
be
to
the
work on that.
person.
I watch some TV, not a lot. Yeah, because I was like, I can't think of
Like, and ideally, I'd like her to be thick. Just saying, that's a big
I
part
was
of the
going. I was
story.
thinking that I'm like,
Like,
we're
you
not gonna get
know,
Zendaya. Like, she's super thin.
she-
Yeah, she's beautiful.
she's
There's
too
nothing wrong with
thin.
her.
She's
Yeah, but she's not right for
beautiful,
the role.
great, but too
She's not
thin.
right
We
for those.
need,
So we'll find
mhm,
somebody.
yeah,
Okay, we'll find somebody. We'll do some cast. But yeah, we'll work on it. So stay
we'll
tuned,
work
people.
on it. We'll work
Um,
on it.
no, this has been great. This has been a lot of fun. You're super easy to talk to, so you can see how people will gravitate to you because of your energy. So I want to thank you for doing this. You could have said no.
Thank you for asking. Like I loved our conversation. I feel like it could have been a 4-hour long episode, which would have been
I
way too
mean,
long. So I'm
not that
glad that
we've
we
yeah, we
we managed
encompassed it
to,
in. I mean,
keep
we
it.
got the meat and potatoes in 90 minutes. We definitely could have went on a bunch of different tangents. Definitely, yeah. I
Yes,
mean, this is my longest episode for this podcast, and I'm okay with it. It's at an hour 30. I think it's super easy flowing, especially how we went from the beginning and then we got into it and came back right to the beginning. It kind of felt like, if you ever seen Deadpool, it starts right in the middle of the movie, and you're like, how
Mhm.
did I get here? Oh, let me explain how. Um,
Yes, good point, good point. This is a
yeah,
Deadpool Forrest Gump mashup, so it's
we're
working
starting a
out
whole
really
new
well.
genre. Yeah, that's right. But thank you for being intoxicated with me. And well, you know
Mhm.
what? We'll have you on later on when I get all my growth in, and you have all your major commercials, and you're booked, and you're working for Steven Spielberg. All right.
Right. Looking forward to it.
All
Thank
right.
you
Thank
so
you, hon.
much, and it was a pleasure.
All right, we're clear. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the amazing story, the amazing Nikki Gomez. You just heard her story. Uh, it literally is a movie, and we're gonna find a director, and we're gonna start casting people to play her. And she has such an amazing story of just positive energy and what you can do with positive energy and how that can translate to the rest of your life. I can't believe her life story, and it's not even done. I mean, she's literally at the beginning of her story, and I had so much fun. I laughed so much talking to her, and she is just a beautiful individual inside and out. And we'll have her soon again. We'll have her again so we can update you on her, probably a new passion that she might have in a year. So thank you everybody who is listening to InPodSicated with Big Z, a 606 Media podcast. Thank you again. Can't do it out, you guys who are listening and watching. We'll see you next time.